Welcome back to the Real with Joseph Lamtman. I am Joseph Lamtman. You guys having a great Wednesday afternoon. Welcome into the Real Wednesday evening, early evening. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate that on the way in here. Welcome into the Real. Obviously got the Cavs tonight at home. We're looking to bounce back and get a Game 5 win. So hopefully the Cavs get a win tonight. We'll see. I'll react to that probably tomorrow. Maybe we'll see how the game goes and everything, and then we'll go from there. But not the biggest story in Cleveland today, though. That's for sure. Even in the offseason, the Browns have a big headline. They're still the biggest news. They still lead the news cycle when they have breaking news, even during the Cavs playoff series. So, which just shows you, like I said, even when the Cavs lost over the weekend in games 3 and 4, it was still the Browns leading the headlines, everything because of the draft and everything and all that. So it's Brownstown, but. Some big breaking news today, so look at right to it. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen it. Already QB1, and with Deshaun Watson sitting there, what do I mean? If you haven't heard, Mary Kay Cabot put out a report today saying that she explained why she believes, or she's reporting that Deshaun Watson has the inside track, was her words, to be named the Browns starting quarterback here very soon. The Browns have only had voluntary workouts so far. Then I think it's like a handful they've already had. So to have a handful of voluntary workouts and be already naming a quarterback, to me is kind of odd because all we heard about was competition. They're going to let him play out and let him compete all summer. And so I don't know why they would go ahead and just already name somebody a starter pretty soon. But according to report, it says Coach Todd Monken hopes to declare or at least identify his starter by the end of the Browns minicamp, June 9th through 11th. Meaning Sanders has about 6 weeks to close the gap and try to overtake the former 3-time Pro Bowler. But Sanders has plenty of ground to make up, and he will have to dazzle the coaching staff to land atop the depth chart leading into training camp. And so what she's saying is that right now Deshaun Watson is the leader in the clubhouse for quarterback one, and that Todd Monken wants to name his starter by June 9th through 11th, that weekend, somewhere in there. I believe that's a weekend. Let me take a look. That is 9th or 11th. No, that's the middle of June, Tuesday to Thursday. So he wants to name it right around there. And that Shedeur Sanders has 6 weeks to overtake him, or either close the gap or overtake him. And so after 2 voluntary workouts, or 3, whatever it's been, a handful, less than that even, they are already declaring a starter. And all we've heard was that there was going to be competition all summer long. I don't agree with that in terms of if you're trying, because here's my take on all this. And I got a bunch of clips I'm going to get to in a minute, right? Actually, before I get to my take, here's Mary Kay Cabot again on Baskin and Phelps today, courtesy of 93 The Fan, explaining the report and kind of what she meant here by all this.
Twist my words into something they are not.
He thinks Deshaun is toast. Why is he not toast?
I would like to see the kids play.
What are you hearing?
Here's the deal. Right now, they are making this decision based on performance alone. They're not making this decision based on quarterback development, and they're not making it based on what they need in next year's draft. They're looking out there, and they're making their decision based on who is going to give them the best chance to win games this season. And what they are seeing right now in practice, and what I actually saw, what looked to me like a quality starting quarterback out there in Deshaun Watson, someone who had done the job before, understands it, operated efficiently. He was, and I wrote that day, that I wrote that he won day one. And then he came back on the days that were closed to us, and he had ended up earning the starting reps. And he was going first based on what they had seen. And so what I've been hearing is that he emerged from that voluntary minicamp ahead of Shedeur Sanders. And at this point right now, he has the inside track to win the starting job. And I just tweeted after I wrote that breaking news, after that, I just said, if that's going to be the case, then you might as well just go and declare him that sooner than later.
And so, again, I think what what she's saying here is Shedeur, we all know the first voluntary workout, right? Shedeur started off getting the first team reps. She's saying that the ones after, they had 2 more after that was closed to the media. So nobody from the public was there, unless only people inside, obviously. That they switched it, that after that first day, they felt like what she's saying. Again, I'm going off of what she's saying. It's described as that they said that Deshaun was so much better that he got switched to QB1 or getting the first team reps and the voluntary workouts, the 2 after. And so here's my take on all this. Because I think there's 2 things here. I think, one, am I surprised Deshaun Watson is outperforming Shedeur in some areas? No, because he's a veteran quarterback. He's more experienced. And Deshaun, he has been the guy he once was, obviously, in 6 years. And what it's been here in Cleveland has been great. It's been a lot of season-ending injuries. The last year on the field was really rough. Couldn't see the field well. And it was just overall, it was a mess of a year that ended in another season-ending injury. He still has talent. He looks very healthy right now. He still, I think, that talent just doesn't go away. Now, to be able to use the talent and be as effective as he used to be, that's one thing. But he never lost that ability to throw the football into what he once was. Like, that raw ability is still there. The talent's still there. And you did see it in the clips we saw from that first workout. He looked pretty good. The ball was getting out quick. He was, setting his feet well, getting the ball out. Spiral looked pretty good. He looked like he had a lot of juice on his arm. He looked good. But, I think with Shedeur, though, if you really want to say it's a competition, I think you have to still let this play out because we've seen Deshaun before. Now, do I put everything that happened to Deshaun on him? Like everything that went bad so far in Cleveland, do I put it all on him? No. I don't think he had the right head coach, in my opinion, didn't have the right coach and coaching staff in some areas, especially in 24, to help him get back to where he once was. Like, coaching matters. No matter who you are, no matter what level you are, coaching does matter. A great coach gets the best out of you, helps you get back to where you need to be. In his case, get back to where he needed to be, and helps him with his mental and preparation and his confidence. And I think a good coach helps with all that, and I think he just didn't have that. And I had a former coach on that staff, the former running back coach, Stump Mitchell. Shout out to Coach Stump. We asked him back when he was on the show a few months ago about that, and here's what Stump Mitchell had to say about what went on when he was there, and that does he believe Deshaun Watson could still get back to that level. Here's what Coach Stump had to say.
Do you think we could see Watson back? Obviously, he's going to be there next year. Could we see him back at that level he was with the Texans in the right circumstances, right coach, right system?
Absolutely, I think he can. Deshaun, all Kevin had to do with Deshaun was call the game like he called it for all the other quarterbacks. The guys he had, Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, Case Keenum, Baker, and Deshaun would have put up the numbers and obtained the success that he had when he was in Houston, when he led the NFL in passing. But he tried to do some other stuff. He tried to get on Deshaun level. You don't try to get on his level. You coach what you know. And whatever the players do besides that, you can take credit for it. It doesn't matter. But you just be who you are and allow the players to be who they are and do some special things, and that wasn't the case. Baker, it was.
And so, and that's what I had Stump on the show a couple of months ago, and we asked him right there about that, what happened with Deshaun back then. And, he said that Kevin just really didn't call the plays well for Deshaun, like he explained there, and that really Kevin, I think, didn't really try to mesh well. He didn't really mesh well with Deshaun Watson, and he tried to do things differently. It's like people say, you hear people in the media say, well, they brought an OC for Deshaun. Not really. Technically, yeah, they hired a new OC in Ken Dorsey in 24, but they fired Alex Van Pelt, who was the glue of that staff, and fired Stump Mitchell, who was obviously a great running back coach. I mean, the guys that produced there spoke for itself. In his career coaching, he's one of the best running back coaches in the league in football. And then you also let Bill Callahan just walk out the door. They didn't try to get any draft picks for him, didn't try to stop him from leaving, nothing. They just let him go. And then, yeah, you brought in a new OC for him, but he brought in Ken Dorsey, and then he didn't let Ken Dorsey call plays for Deshaun. You brought in a guy with a totally different philosophy offensively than you, Kevin, and you didn't let him call the plays. You tried calling plays out of his offense that in an offense with different terminology, with different flavor that you have never called plays before because you only came from one system in Minnesota. And so, yeah, of course it did work. But then when Deshaun gets hurt, when he tore his Achilles and that was it for the year, then we hand off play calling duties to Ken Dorsey. And it's like, you never really actually changed the offense for Deshaun because if you truly wanted to bring a new OC and a new offense to help Deshaun, you let the guy you bring in run the offense that you're hiring him to bring in to help install, not one that you don't call plays out of. Why did you even hire the guy to begin with? The whole thing was a debacle. And then the musical chairs with the coaching staff and just the O-line room that year with the coaching was an absolute debacle. And that's the most important coach hire you make as a head coach. And Kevin botched that year. And so it was an absolute colossal failure in 24. And a lot of that, it all wasn't on Deshaun. A lot of it was on them. A complete mismanagement, complete just incompetence, and just it was terrible. But so I agree with Stump Mitchell. I think if Deshaun Watson is healthy and in the right headspace, I think he does have a shot to play well again. Will he ever get back to what he once was? I don't know. That was 6 years ago. Could he play serviceable starting quarterback? Excuse me, I misspoke. Could he be a serviceable starting quarterback in the NFL again? Does he have the he has the talent to still do so. If healthy, he can definitely be a serviceable starting quarterback in the NFL. Now, that's that with Deshaun. Now, in terms of this competition, though, with him and Shedeur, and why, I was even a little surprised that. Am I surprised that he's getting more first-team reps than Shedeur right now? No, like I said earlier, he's still very talented when healthy. He's a Pro Bowl talent. We've seen what he did at one point, if healthy. And he's still a veteran. Like, he has a little more experience than Shedeur. And that's not Shedeur's. Again, there's nothing you can do about experience. Like, that's can't change your age. Like, that is what it is. But I'm not surprised by that. But to come out and say that it's like he's going to be in line to get named the starter and that it's going to be happening in June, that Shedeur basically has 6 weeks to change their minds. That's kind of like, this isn't training camp already. At least that's what I thought. Like, this isn't July. It's April. Like, I don't understand why they came out and said it was going to be a competition, and then they're putting a date on it to, June now, saying that it's going to be over by then. Then that, Deshaun basically, the way she described this report today, it's almost like she's saying like Deshaun's on mile 24 of the race, and Shedeur's all the way back on mile 4. Like, he's got 20 miles to catch up and surpass in 6 weeks. And I just don't. I'm just find it odd that they're doing this. And that they're coming out now and saying this. And again, I know a lot of people today have gone after Mary Kay and said, because last year she said Dylan Gabriel's supercomputer and, all this and that. Here's what I'll say. And I, obviously I'm not a media member. I do this. I've met media people that have been they've been cool. And, I met some nice ones that have been really nice people. Terry Pluto was one I met. I have a lot of respect for. He treated me pretty cool. He was a really cool guy. And, I think Mary Kay Cabot, if you're people if you're in the Shedeur camp, let's say, all the Shedeur fans who I've come to this channel and subscribed, I've had awesome interactions with a lot of them. And you guys have been great. And just anybody in general, new Browns fans, if you're somebody outside, Mary Kay Cabot has been around a long time, right? And I'm just going to tell you like it is. Like, she's been around a long time. She does get information. Like, just because you may not agree with what she said, doesn't mean it's not what is actually being said within the building. She puts out a lot of what they want out. That's what they're there for. Like, media helps with marketing. Like, I don't know if you guys forget, like, media members help with marketing for the teams. It keeps draws fan interest. It keeps things interesting. That's why what keeps people reactionary like today and getting all upset or going to buy or when they come out and say, man, the so-and-so looks great, and people go buy tickets, man, and they get back. It keeps engagement into the team. And the Browns have had to have that for a long time, more than anybody, because they've been the worst franchise in sports for my whole lifetime. So the information she got, and it was put out there for a reason. And she's not the only person that has said this recently either. So now my whole thing, I'm questioning them more so. Why are they doing this now? Right? That's what I'm looking at. I don't care about who said it, because I know what she said is what they wanted to put out. They told her for a reason. She put it out, and that's how they presented it. And she's not the only one. I mean, Tony Grossi said yesterday too, who's also been a longtime Browns reporter, that what he heard was that Deshaun looked pretty good in those two, in the ones that the two voluntary workouts to the media wasn't there. So two people have said the same thing. What are they trying to tell you? What is the team trying to tell you? Not them. What is the team trying to tell you through the media? Because that's what they do. They put in the tea leaves, right? And they put certain things out, and they start to slowly tell you what they're thinking and what they're going to do. And here's my thought process on all this. And I spoke to Stump Mitchell about a month ago about this. I spoke to some other people about it. And these are people that have actually a relationship with Todd Monken and still speak to him, on a regular basis. And, just leave it at that. But, what I'll say is this. I think Todd Monken wants to have an open and fair competition. I think Todd's that kind of guy. I think Todd's a great coach. I think Todd will be a really good coach. I think he's a great quarterback developer. I think that's proven in his past. I think he's a great quarterback developer. Look what he did with Lamar Jackson. Look what he did with Stetson Bennett. Two different styles. And Kyle, Lamar, he took him to 41 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and was an MVP that year, or maybe 13 or so. But he was an MVP that year, 41 touchdowns. And then with Stetson Bennett, who he was an undersized college quarterback and won 2 national championships with him at Georgia. I mean, Todd Monken's a pretty damn good quarterback coach. When you look at his resume, and you listen to him talk at seminars, how he breaks it down, like he's the dude. Like he's a dude. And so I love the hire even more. That I've listened to him. He told the fans the other day, if they don't like the music, go move, get out of here. Todd's the real deal. Ain't no bluffing with Todd. And Todd, it's his way or the highway. And one thing the Browns have said throughout since the day they hired Todd Monken, Jimmy Haslam said it, Andrew Berry said it again yesterday, is the quarterback decision is going to be Todd's call. Now, I'm curious why they want to put this out now, saying that Deshaun's got the inside track and that he wants to name the quarterback by June 9th through 11th, because 9th through 11 is interesting. I don't know. To me, that would say, if that's true, that they believe Deshaun Watson is just so much more talented than Shedeur Sanders, and he's more advanced with his experience, and that they believe they have a team now after 2 back-to-back really good drafts. And obviously this draft class has produced, but it looks pretty good on paper. And we all agree to that, and most people thought that after the weekend. I gave it an A. That, hey, we got a young core now. The AFC North next year is kind of questionable in some ways because, Baltimore has Lamar, but John Harbaugh's not there anymore. How are they going to look? Pittsburgh, they don't have a quarterback right now. And Mike Tomlin, who's the stable, force in that franchise for a lot of years, he's not there right now. Cincinnati, on paper, they always look good every year, but, somebody gets hurt or something happens, it doesn't work out. Like the AFC North, hey, maybe we compete and win this thing. And I think what Todd Monken is trying to do is let's try to build a winning franchise again. And how do you do that? You start winning, and you start building a stable culture from within. And so I think if this is true, that's how they. And I'm just interpreting what I'm thinking. If this is what if this report is accurate, that's what they're thinking, and that they're thinking, you know what? Let's get him, like she said today. Let's go ahead and name him in June. So then now he gets all the first team reps, and we know he's the guy going into camp. So then we start to build momentum more towards continuity and getting ready for the season, and where we can hopefully try to make a playoff run. That's one way to look at it. I think another way to look at this is also they keep saying that this was going to be a competition, and you really can't compete until you get in pads. Because that's how football is played. It's in pads, not, T-shirt and helmets and shorts. And so, my thing is, like, if you really want to have a competition, and I think Deshaun Watson can get back to being a serviceable starting quarterback. I think Shedeur Sanders with Todd Monken and a little more time to develop, again, one thing I said about Shedeur covering him I watched Shedeur all the way back to Colorado days. I watched all those games like you guys and followed along with the well-off media and, all that stuff, and I've followed his career since then. What I've seen since he left Colorado is I don't think Pat Shurmur did a good job as OC. And I don't think they had a single draft pick this year in the draft. So I mean, I know Dion was sick last offseason. He was stepped away from the team for a while. I'm not sure who was running the team, if it was Pat Shurmur or who was stepped in as interim. But I just think when I look at Colorado's program and where Shedeur came from, offensively, with the offensive coaching especially, I don't think he was developed up to the point he needed to be. And I just look at I look at Colorado this year since he left, and they went through how many different quarterbacks, and Pat Shurmur now doesn't have a job there anymore. I don't believe he's not the OC anymore. I know that. So he was demoted, if anything, or if not let go. So again, I think when he came in the NFL, I think he had a lot of learning to do, like any rookie quarterback. But I think he was he had a lot of stuff he had to learn, and it wasn't. I think if Shedeur had went to like a Georgia or an Ohio State or an Alabama when Nick Saban was there, like a more premier college program, I think he probably would have been a little more ahead of the curve when he got to the NFL. So that's just my opinion. But again, I look at Colorado and look at you look at all the other guys. Travis Hunter was an anomaly. Travis Hunter's gonna be great no matter where he went, because he was that's a once in a generation type of talent. When he stays healthy, dude's a freak. But I look at all the other guys, and you look at some of the guys that left out of the transfer portal since Shedeur left, that Jordan Seaton, all these guys, and kind of making it known publicly how they felt when they left. Like it's like, I don't know. I can't. I think Shedeur's, like Andrew Berry said, he needs to keep continuing, taking steps and learning and growing. I think that's his best path. And how long that's going to take, I don't know. I'm not behind the scenes. Only the coaches know that. And only Coach Monken knows where he wants Shedeur to be before he puts him out there on the field. That's his, and that's as a head coach, that's his right. Every coach has a different viewpoint on that, but I trust his opinion on it. His track record is proven. I don't think Todd Monken's trying to purposely screw Shedeur Sanders. If anybody wants to say that, I know that was the thing with people question that was Stefanski. I don't think Todd Monken's doing. I think Todd Monken truly wants to develop Shedeur Sanders. But how long is that going to take for when Todd, as the head coach, through his eyes, again, we're not behind the scenes, so we don't know, until he feels comfortable putting him out there? I don't know. But I think it's going to take probably a little more time for Shedeur to develop more, based on what I was just saying about where he came from in college. And, last year was obviously a unique situation for a rookie quarterback. You're coming in a room with three other guys, including another rookie they took ahead of you. Like, he's had to really battle through a lot of things and really fight to get, he had to really fight to get up there last year to get out on the field. But I think it was a long learning curve too last year. I think he learned a lot of things that he probably didn't know. And I think he's probably still continuing to learn. He's probably now obviously going to a different system in the year two. It's not ideal. Like this, you don't really want to fire a head coach if you really want to develop a rookie quarterback. Any quarterback, rather, no matter rookie or not, you really don't want to fire a coach and start all over another system again. But they had to. I agree with the decision they made. They had to do it. So, if you really want a competition, though, I think Deshaun, because we haven't seen Deshaun do it at a high level in so long. We've seen Deshaun have great camps before in Cleveland, and then and again, I'm not putting it all on him why he didn't pan out those seasons. Some of it was season end injuries and some of the bad play. Not put it all on him, like I mentioned earlier when I played the clip from Stump, who was on the staff. But I've seen this before in some ways. Like at some point, it's like you got to do it. You either the dude or you're not, right? And so I think it's best for Deshaun to still have competition in camp, because I think Deshaun, the best thing Deshaun needs is pushed. He needs pushed a little bit, and competition brings the best out of each other. It's like the saying, iron sharpens iron. I think the best thing for Deshaun Watson, because when has Deshaun Watson never competed since he's been here in Cleveland? Never. He was the $230 million guy they paid. He didn't have to compete for his job. It was handed to him. So I think it's better for him to still compete. And if you want to name him the starter in the middle of camp before the preseason, I think that's the better route. Here's my other take on this, though. Why are you trying to, and I had a conversation with somebody about this who still talks to Todd Monken frequently. I'm not saying this is some insight. This isn't insight, but I just thought this idea I thought was interesting. Somebody used to be in the building. That they believe that, hey, why not name Deshaun the starter earlier? And they said this to me a month ago. Name Deshaun the starter earlier, and then prop him up, hope he plays good in the preseason, and then trade him by week 2 of the preseason. So basically, you're building up his trade value. And I think that could be the case here because ever since the owners meeting, and I know Jason Lloyd said this on the Old Queen Sports Show today. He said, because Jason Lloyd, before he went to the owners meeting, said, there's no way Deshaun should be the starter. It's going to be Shedeur. And then he said when he got back from the owners meeting that he said it was like a totally different vibe that he got from talking to people that, sorry, I haven't seen this. Really? Who was at the draft party? Football is a family game. Shout out to Navalia Brown. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Navalia, but I appreciate you for tuning in. If you wouldn't mind, I'm not sure what you're referring to. My apologies. But I got a little sidetracked. He said, though, when he got back, though, he had the idea that, they were for real about putting Deshaun out there. And so, when I had this conversation with somebody about a month and a half ago who I really trust, and again, used to be in that building and talks to people in that building still on something here and there, kind of on a regular basis. They mentioned that to me that, that's a way they can get rid of Deshaun, and that, ultimately in the end, ownership, they're leaving it up to Haslam's leaving it up to Todd to make the call, but Shedeur does make good from a business standpoint, makes sense from a business standpoint because he generates revenue, he draws interest, he'll get you national TV games, whether you like the guy or not, or you think he's legit or not. The NFL's they're going to promote him because the dude has a hell of a following. You can't deny that. So he has a loyal fan base, and he is interesting because he's Deion Sanders' son, and he's always, there's always been an interest around him. All the talk shows I listen to, the sports shows, even people that are highly critical of him, they still talk about him because it's a name. It draws clicks, it draws ratings, that sells tickets, generates money. So it's a business. The NFL, at the end of the day, the NFL is a business at the end of the day, right? Owners look at it as a business. A lot of them, this is a hobby to them. So I think one way you can look at all this is, are they trying to, come out and say that, Deshaun's all this and that, and they could try to prop him up and trade him? Hope he plays good a couple preseason games and then trade him in the middle of the preseason. Maybe, he's got 1 year left on his deal. I think there's some team out, because I asked this person, I said, do you really think a team would take a swing on him with that contract and all this stuff? And they said, yeah. They're like, listen, if a guy is playing decently and he's still a name brand guy, and he's playing like Deshaun Watson, he obviously his name when you bring it up to the public is not it's not recepted very well for obviously the obvious reasons, but he's still a name. And Steve, I think there's still people out there, fans, who wondering, could this guy ever get back to what he was? Like, it's still interesting. Like, you want to see, like, what does it look like? Because we all saw what it once was. And so I think what this person said to me, like, listen, I think a team would, if it made sense for him for 1 year, take a flyer on him to see what they got. I mean, like, I look at a team like Arizona, Carson Beck, they drafted him, but I don't think Carson Beck's really drawing interest to the Cardinals. Now you put Deshaun Watson out there for a year to see what he has in a different situation. I think people would be like, hey, let's see what this guy has. Nothing to lose. And if he doesn't pan out, then you just wipe your hands clean of it. It's over with. It's a 1 year deal. So, I think that's one way you can look at this. Are they trying to really set it up for a trade? I don't know. Here's one thing I found interesting in all this. So yesterday, Andrew Berry went on ESPN Cleveland, and I saw people putting this out today. Give me 1 second. Saying that I saw people saying today that this was kind of like a response to her report, that what Andrew Berry said yesterday was basically confirming that what she reported today was a lie, and that the Shedeur's the guy. So here's the clip that everyone's responding to today, or everyone's sharing today. This is courtesy of Jockey Truth. Shout out to them on X, saying, again, kind of refuting what Mary Kay Cabot said because of what Andrew Berry said yesterday. Let's take a listen to what he said.
We've preached competition since we've been here, and that'll hold true in the quarterback room. We're looking for performance. We like to keep at least 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, provided that they earn the spot, and another on the practice squad.
Where does Shedeur sit right now? What are your expectations for him this year?
To take another step and keep growing and learning. I think he's had a really nice offseason. He did a really nice job at voluntary minicamp. I think his improvements in decision making and pocket management by the end of the year, and certainly what we've seen so far in a very short spring, have been positive. And I expect him to have more command of the offense and better ball security and situational awareness as we go into year 2.
Does Deshaun have an advantage over him?
I don't know that any player has an advantage. I think certainly experience helps. I wouldn't say that that in and of itself gives any player an advantage. But at the end of the day, who plays, that's Todd's call.
Now, I think the biggest thing from that is what he said at the end. I'll let if you take his word for it, that at the end of the day, it's Todd's call who's going to start. But, he said a lot of things there. He talked about we encourage competition. And I have that clip, because that clip of there was kind of chopped up in bits. Here's the actual clip of what he said yesterday about we're looking for performance, about competition. Because, again, this is what they've been telling us, that it's going to be a two-man competition between Shedeur and Deshaun. And a real competition, to me, you can't have a real competition until it takes place in camp. And even if you want Deshaun, if you think Deshaun, if you wanted Deshaun to be the starter, let's say that, I think it's still better for Deshaun to have competition in camp because, I get what Mary Kay was saying today, like, hey, if he's your guy right now, go ahead and name him so he gets the first team reps. But I think when you look at where Deshaun is coming off these injuries and that, he's never had to really compete since he's been in the league, especially since he took that layoff after 2020 with all the allegations came out. And then since the injuries and all the stuff that's happened, I think the best thing for him is competition. I think he needs to be pushed a little bit and try to see if he really is that guy again. Because if you really want to commit to him this year, I think you really need the best thing for him is to push him and to see and like show us you're the guy in competition. Like you got to earn it. Like it's not just to be handed to you just because you're more talented, possibly, maybe than the guy. So like that's how I look at it. But here's what he said yesterday on that interview, the full clip about what he said about competition and performance.
Andrew, are you going to you'll bring 4 quarterbacks to camp as you did last year, but then what will the assessment be at that point? And what ultimately do you plan on doing for the season with the 4 you have?
Yeah. So I think, we've preached competition since we've been here, and that'll hold true in the quarterback room. As Todd said, that doesn't mean that everybody gets equal reps, and that's true across positions. But we're looking for performance. And I hate to make it that simple, but that's what it's about. Ultimately, I think you all know that we like to keep at least 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, provided that they earn the spot. And another on the practice squad. So we want to make sure that we have talent and depth at the position.
And so again, that's courtesy ESPN Cleveland from yesterday. And he said again, there's the quote, we're looking for performance. I hate to make it that simple. That's ultimately what that's what it's ultimately about. And I just don't think you're going to get the real performance evaluation until you put them both in pads and a helmet against live action and training camp and see what they got, because that's how the game's played. Like, yeah, I think Deshaun, I'm not surprised Deshaun's ahead right now because of his experience and, his talent when healthy. He's still an elite talent when he's healthy. Now, can he translate that talent back to what it was mentally and putting out and performing like that on the field and executing it? That's a whole different thing. But, I think I find it odd to go again that they're trying to do this now, and they're trying to, by her report, if it's accurate, saying that by June 9th through 11th, that's when he wants to name a starter in the middle of June, and training camps in July. And so again, I keep thinking this is possibly them trying to prop up Deshaun to hopefully try to trade him out of here. I really do. I think that's one way that this could go. That, hey, let's get this guy, because they're coming out saying all the great things about Deshaun right now, like almost like he's a franchise guy. And maybe is there one part of Jimmy Haslam in this organization that still wants to show that that's not the worst trade in NFL history, that, hey, we could salvage this guy with a different coach, and we could say it was bad coaching. And we can show that he's still that, we can get him back to being the guy, and so we can still get something out of it. I think there's probably is part of Haslam that maybe thinks that, because owners have egos, and right now he's known as the guy who made the worst trade in NFL history. Point blank period. I mean, I don't know. You could say the Russell Wilson one to Denver maybe, but they got off of that and they recovered from it. The Browns, they're still stuck in this. So A lot of people say that's the worst, and he gave the first fully guaranteed contract at that level ever in history. I mean, so I think part of him probably still does want to show that Deshaun could still be something, and that, hey, we could just say it was bad coaching. Now, like I played earlier, Stump Mitchell, who was on the coaching staff at that time, he did say that he believes Kevin mismanaged it and didn't call the plays properly for Deshaun and, all that stuff. But, I think this is more so to do because I just don't. I find it odd why you'd want to name a starter by June 9th. I mean, unless they think Shedeur is just that far behind and Deshaun's just that much better. Maybe that's what they think. But they keep telling us it's a competition on the way other end, though, that it's going to be a two-man competition. And he said there, too, in that clip, the first one, he said, we expect Shedeur to play better in year 2. He'll have more command of the offense stuff. I mean, the way he said it, it's like he's going to play this year. So it's like, okay, well, then it's going to be a competition. So this report to me today was kind of odd in some ways, the timing of it and the way, really the biggest part that stood out to me was that wanting to name a starter, his starter by the end of minicamp. And so, or at least identify. And it's like, well, you're in shorts and t-shirt. You're not in pads. Like that's not competition to me. You don't play football in shorts. This ain't flag football. Shout out to Brian Johnson. He said, when people have nothing to do, it's time to fill in the blank space. And maybe that might be what's going on here, Brian. I don't know. I'd found this report kind of the timing of it. Again, like I said, the timing and then that date about when he wants to at least identify a starter. I found that kind of odd. But one thing I think that kind of got swept under the rug today that kind of goes along with what I'm saying about possibly are they trying to set up to maybe package Deshaun where maybe he's the guy next year, or they can package him to trade him out of here is what I'm getting at. And kind of, make it look good to other teams. Like, hey, this guy, he looks good and blah, blah, blah. And they could say, well, we got a younger guy in Shedeur to make for us to play Deshaun. Because a lot of people are saying, why would you want to play Deshaun? Because why would you want to re-sign him next year after the season? Like, wouldn't you rather go with the younger guy and see what he has? And then if he doesn't pan out, you go to the draft next year because you get a guy on a rookie deal. Why would you want to pay Deshaun again and keep this, get stuck in that contract? Which I get financially. It's kind of like I get it. So I think the Browns could say, well, here. They could tell another team why. Like a team could say, why would you want to trade Deshaun if he's playing that well? Well, we have Shedeur. We want to see what he has. Financially makes more sense for us in the future, right? Let's say they say that to other teams in negotiations if they're trying to trade Deshaun. Because you really have to sell that team of why they should trade for Deshaun Watson. Because that's not an easy trade for any team to make if anybody is interested in it, because you got to kind of sell it to your fans a little bit because of the name and all the stuff behind it. But also, I think he's $41 million next year. I don't know if they could just trade him in the middle, what that would look like, but I think they could trade him realistically if they wanted to. I'll have to do some more research on that, but if they wanted to, maybe it could happen. But J.W. Johnson, though, Browns ownership group, has come out, and this kind of got swept under the rug today. He came out today on ESPN Cleveland and was talking about Deshaun Watson as well. And I thought some of the comments he made about Deshaun Watson on ESPN Cleveland today, the same day of this report, I thought was fascinating. And, yesterday, Tony Grossi was saying the same thing in a way that Mary Kay was saying in her report today. So this is 3 different people. And obviously, he's in the ownership group. So I think what he says is kind of significant because he's part of the ownership group. So he's the son-in-law of Jimmy Haslam, and a big part of the ownership group, obviously. So here's what J.W. Johnson said about Deshaun today.
Deshaun looks great, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys were ever out there, he's done a great job. He looks healthy. He's in a great headspace. We'll see how it all shakes out. There is an ongoing competition, but, he's got nothing to lose. And if he's our starting quarterback, I know there are people that probably won't be supportive, but they should need to be supportive as much as they can. And if he plays great, then, hey, awesome. If he doesn't, then, it is what it is. And we're looking ahead to the future.
And that's courtesy of ESPN Cleveland. Now, what he just said there, the way he said it to me was almost like Deshaun's going to be the starting quarterback, and that because he said fans would, he kind of called out the fans a bit like, hey, if some fans don't want to get on board with it, they should. And if he plays great, great. If not, we'll look forward to the future. And so you would think Shedeur, because of his age, is part of what they can see if they have a future there with him. Do I think they're committed to any quarterback on this roster right now? No. I don't think any of these guys on the roster right now they view as their long-term future. And I don't think they should, because none of them have showed that they are that yet. They still could this year. This is the year to do it, but they're not committed to anybody right now. And so, but the way he said it there, though, the way he went out his way to say, hey, Deshaun looks great. And this isn't the first time JW said this. JW said this back in February. Now, that was today. And I found that kind of got swept under the rug today a little bit, I thought, a little bit because of this report. But it's the same day as the report. It was literally 2 hours before the report came out. He said that. So, and I think that's kind of interesting. But he also said this before back on February. And I have that right here. He was on Big Play, the network, back in February. And he said the same thing about Deshaun in some areas back then. Here's what he said about Deshaun Watson back in February.
Listen, first of all, winning in the NFL is very difficult. It's hard. Okay. And, we had it the last couple of years. We went to 2 playoff appearances, and that was unbelievable. And obviously one was during COVID, and we couldn't share it with our fans. And, a couple plays away from candidly playing in the AFC Championship game, which would have been amazing. And the last couple of years have been really disappointing, not for everybody. I mean, I losing sucks. I hate it. I hate losing. I mean, if some people who probably listen to the show will know or probably sit in front of us in the stands, I'm very into it, very passionate. I care. I mean, when we don't make a good play or something happens, I'm pissed and I want us to win. And Jimmy's the same way. The whole family's the same way. So I get the frustration. We feel the same pain. We know it's important, paramount to get a quarterback. We took a big swing on Deshaun, and who knows? We hope that Deshaun has a great year this year if he does get the starting job. Listen, first of all,
so again, that was back courtesy of Big Play back in February. So we've heard the J.W. Johnson, part of the ownership group, say that twice now this offseason about Deshaun, that we hope Deshaun plays well. Now there he says if he gets the starting job. And then today, the way he said it today, though, was kind of like in the day this report comes out, like, yeah, I think he's going to get the job. So I think, again, what I think is going on here is this. I think they will name Deshaun Watson the starter probably earlier than they should. Again, I think if you have a real competition, you should let it play out for at least the first 2-3 weeks in camp when they're in full pads. But that's just me. But I think they will end up naming him the starter, probably like she's saying. But is it really because he's actually the guy? Like, and what I mean by the guy, I'm saying, like, not that he didn't outplay Shedeur, that they really believe that this guy's going to go out there next year and give them the best shot to win. And then because if he does do that, you're putting yourself in a situation where, hey, what if he goes out there and plays really well and they win the division and make the playoffs? Are you going to pay him? Because that's what they have to decide. I don't know right now if that's what they want to do. I don't know if that makes sense for them either. Maybe because I don't. And second thing too, I don't know if Deshaun would even re-sign there, because if Deshaun played that well, I think there'd probably be one more team that may try to get in there and try to sign him. I think somebody else I think would try to sign him. What if Deshaun didn't even want to sign back here, right? And now you had a whole year where you could have played the 2 other younger guys and see what they had to see if you had a future there before you go to the draft and try to make a draft selection. Maybe they've already predetermined that they don't believe Shedeur's their future. I don't know. Do I think I don't think they're committed to any of these quarterbacks right now in the long term. I think what they're trying to do with Deshaun is, I think right now he is ahead. I think right now he is still probably in some areas ahead of Shedeur and a lot, and just with the experience and the raw talent. But are they trying to really set this guy up to where they could trade him? Is what I'm wondering. Are they could they? Because I just think, like, you want to name him the starter by June, like I said in a report today, June 9th through 11th, way before training camp. Okay, it's almost like, to me, the propping up of his name and that he's this guy again, that he's healthy and that he looks great and blah, blah, blah. Because we've heard this before in past training camps about Deshaun, that he looked great. And we got out in the season and he either got hurt, injury. And that's, I think, his biggest concern, unfortunately, is injuries. He's just never been able to stay healthy. He's had 2 season-end injuries since he's been here. And so, again, are they trying to trade this guy, right, in the middle of the preseason? Like somebody who used to be in that building kind of mentioned to me that he thinks that could happen. And ultimately, they told me they think ownership would rather have Shedeur out there and play because of revenue reasons and interest. But And I think JW said in that clip today on ESPN Cleveland that when he said that comment about the fans getting behind him, I think they kind of know like that's kind of a tough sell to a lot of fans to put him out on the field. I don't know if that's good for your business, but and that's what it is at the end of the day. But I find this all very fascinating because I don't know where this is heading. And then on top of all this, to finish up today, shout out to Alien Overlord Snow. He said Watson is likely to re-injure his Achilles or shoulder soon. Taylon Green is already QB2. If Taylon Green's already QB2, that's pretty incredible. A 6th-round pick who has not even stepped foot on the field in the NFL. Very talented kid. I'm fascinated with him, but I don't think he's QB2. But with Deshaun though about the injury, I mean that's his biggest concern to me. That's the number one concern is can he even stay healthy? And the Browns have had quarterback injuries. They haven't had a guy play a whole full season of quarterback since Baker in 2020. That was 6 years ago. I mean, that's a long time since they've had somebody actually finish a full season healthy. So, injuries and quarterbacks for the Browns has been nothing. It's been the same old here for the last 5 years. So, 5-6 seasons rather. So, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at this. But again, on top of all this, what else we heard yesterday when they talked to where is it? Excuse me, give me one second. When they talked to the GM Andrew Berry, they asked him about. Actually, I'm gonna play this one first. So this is today about this report. Finish up with this report first. This is from Ebbett Goldhammer today. When he said, when you actually reported Deshaun Watson report as the inside track, I thought Emmett Goldman had a pretty interesting point here at the end about if Deshaun is their guy. It basically says Shedeur really has no future here in the organization. Here's what Emmett Golden had to say.
Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com put out a report today that says that Deshaun Watson has emerged from voluntary minicamp with an edge over Shedeur Sanders, sources say, and has the inside track to be named QB1. If Shedeur doesn't win this, I think that tells you how the Browns feel about him. I see a young guy with potential who they believed in enough last year to, get out there and say, yo, we got to play this kid and play him for the last 7 games of the season. So if Watson, who he's been a disaster overall. So if they believe more in a guy who has not played well while he was here and hasn't finished a season at all, then to me, that means they just don't believe in Shedeur at all.
And I agree with that. And courtesy of ESPN Clear, I agree. If Deshaun Watson really does win the job and they put him out there, because after all the stuff that's happened in the last X amount of years since he's been here and the 2 season injuries, they don't believe in Shedeur. That is what it is. They're telling you, not by saying it, just by their actions. And so I agree with that statement there. That's could be where this is heading. I don't know. We'll see. Because on one end, you hear Andrew Berry say it's competition, and he kind of mentioned like we're going to see Shedeur play this year and have more command of the offense and blah blah blah. But then also at the other end, we hear today with this report, it sounds like they're leaning towards Deshaun to take over. And you hear J.W. Johnson say he looks great and he's going to play this year. If he looks great, if not, then we're going to look towards the future. And one way to also off that comment too, JW made today, it's almost like he said, was he leaving the door open that they could re-sign him if he played really well? Because he said if he doesn't play well, we'll look towards the future. Well, what if he does play well? And he's got 1 year left on his deal this year. Then what? You going to re-sign this guy? Are you saying that you would re-sign him? So the Browns have kind of sent a lot of different signals out in a lot of different directions. Shout out to Alien again. It says I would be okay to trade Gabriel because he's 5'10" with no long balls. Browns could have drafted 6'4" Sawyer Robertson in round 7. Yeah, I don't think Dylan Gabriel. Now I don't know if they could trade him this year because again they did use a 3rd round pick on him. I mean that's a higher pick for a quarterback like him. So I don't know if they want to trade him now. I don't think he has a future in Cleveland, at least. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback at all. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I just think he's just too small and he's left-handed. And maybe a fresh start somewhere else, he could be something else or become something, excuse me. But I don't think it's going to be here in Cleveland. But you never – I don't know what they're going to do with him. Shout out to Gibby. Says they should start Watson, trade Sanders, and have Taylon Green back up Watson. Well, if that's the scenario that ends up playing out, that Watson is their guy this year and he goes out and plays well and they want to re-sign him, then yeah, they should do this, because you should trade Shedeur, and then just have Taylon Green back him up, and then hope that Taylon Green becomes your Malik Willis in 3 years once Deshaun's extension is up. Because Taylon Green has a lot of talent, 6'6", 227 pounds. I think with a guy like Todd Monken for 3 years, he would sit for 3 years and develop, kind of like, what Malik Willis did in Green Bay a little bit. I think by the time, if that scenario played out and Watson's your guy, if you did re-sign him, if you played well, improved it, then by the time that contract's up, then you put Taylon Green out there, and he's your Malik Willis for your organization. I think that could be one way to look at it, and I've thought of that myself. So good point there. But on top of all this too, and kind of going back to what I said earlier, well, I don't think they're really truly committed to any of these guys right now. I think they're kind of just playing it out this year to see what happens. And also at the same time, maybe trying to, I think, again, when I brought up to you about the Deshaun trade, possibly, I got to look into more of what that would look like financially if they try to trade him with his contract. I think it's like a $40 million they're paying him this year. So I don't know what that would look like for them. But if they did try to trade it, if they could, are they trying to really just build up his trade value to try to dump him off in the middle of the preseason, which somebody mentioned to me as an idea a couple months ago, and I thought that was interesting. I don't know. But on top of all this, they're not committed to anybody. Right? They don't have right now, the Browns don't have a franchise guy. We all know that, because nobody's proven anything yet that they are that guy. But I thought this was interesting too. On top of all this, going back to the interview, if I can find the right one, give me 1 minute. They asked Andrew Berry about Ty Simpson, and obviously Ty Simpson. I reacted to some of the reports leading up to the draft in the last couple of months that the Browns somewhat had interested in him, that obviously his dad had a relationship with Todd Monken. They used to coach together at Southern Miss, and that if he fell to the right spot, not at 6, but if he fell to, the right spot, maybe at like 24 or somewhere in that area there, that maybe they would take him. And so they asked him about it yesterday on the ESPN radio show. And here's what he had to say.
Ty Simpson falling in the first round, how serious would he have been a consideration at 24?
In terms of Ty Simpson, I think, probably the biggest thing is we didn't anticipate Ty would be available to us at 24. Certainly there was, if the board falls a certain way, he comes into consideration, but by no means was that meant to be a suggestion that he would be the focal point of that pick, Tony. We love KC, and we were really thrilled to get him. We were sweating bullets a little bit because we knew he could come off the board a couple picks ahead of us. But it's really just more about reading how we thought the first round would come out, and then how that would drive or potentially dictate strategy.
So there was interest there, and I said that on the show, that I think they did have some interest in him. I didn't buy some of the other reports and some of the other quarterbacks like Kyler Murray and all that. I didn't buy that, but I do think they did have interest in him if he fell to the right spot, because I think Todd Monken's coming to the situation fresh. He has no relationship to any of these guys. Like, he wasn't here when they got Deshaun. He wasn't here when they brought in Shedeur. Andrew Berry could even say to some extent, like, I didn't make those calls. That was Paul DePodesta made that call, and last year ownership had me take Shedeur serious. If that was the case, I don't know. But I'm just saying, but Todd in particular, Todd is not indebted to any of these quarterbacks. He's coming in a fresh situation. This is what I want, and this is, he's trying to build something here. Now, would they have taken him at 24? I don't know. I don't know where they would have taken him at. I think if he did fall to the right spot, I think he would have been in consideration. Doesn't mean they still would have took him, but the fact they even consider him, though, tells me that, again, they don't believe they have their future in the building right now. So could that change by the end of the season? Hey, maybe. Again, like Andrew Berry said, it's going to dictate on. Ultimately, it's going to be dictated by performance, and so I think that's where they stand with the quarterback position right now in terms of where they are in the future. Now, why they put this report out today, and why, again, the biggest thing from that report to me was the beginning of it about trying to identify or hoping name a starter by June 9th through 11th, when training camp's a month later. You keep telling us you want to have a competition. I find that interesting because it's almost like, why do you want to hurry up and name a guy that early? A, do you believe you can actually compete next year? I think they possibly could. It's too early, but I think with the draft they just had, looking to the North, I think it is in some world you could say with good quarterback play they could win the North next year. Are they looking at it like that? Like, we want to actually go out and compete next year and win and build something, or is it? Because that's how I look at it. Either they believe Deshaun gives them the best chance to win, or they're trying to prop Deshaun up to help maybe try to move him in the middle of preseason. That's the only two ways I look at this. And at third, they don't believe they have the guy in the building. They don't. So they don't believe anybody they have in the building right now is going to be their future unless they prove otherwise, like Andrew Berry said. And it's going to be dictated by performance. But they've always used the word, we'll look forward to the future if it doesn't happen, like J.W. Johnson said. So we're just going to let it play out, I guess. I don't know. This is all just wild. I mean, they just had a great draft. Everybody was giving them praise and stuff, and then this comes out today. It's just like, okay, what's going on? But we're going to find out. Alan Davis said staying healthy is the key issue. Shedeur Sanders, be patient. Yeah, with Deshaun, that's the biggest thing is staying healthy. I think when healthy, the talent obviously the clip I saw from that first practice of Deshaun going through that drill, he still has the talent. Like, guy gets the ball out very quick, his feet, the ball fake, like, he looked very crisp, and he looked like a guy who was a seasoned pro before and played at a high level before. It's just, can he stay healthy? And I think with him, is mentally he's in the right headspace, and JW says he's in the right headspace, so we'll see. But I think coaching will matter with him too. I think it's better for him to actually go through a little bit of competition in camp to help push him a little bit, because I think he needs to earn that, really solidify that, and really show that, okay, I am this guy. I am going to be the guy for this job. So I don't think I would name the starter personally before training camp, because again, I want him to go through those live reps in competition and actually try to earn it, because he never had to earn it since he's been here. And really his whole career he hasn't had to earn it, because he was always that dude. But since he's been here, he hasn't had to earn it. I think he should now. Where they are right now, I think he should go out and try to earn it. And that's for everybody. Shedeur has to earn it too. Like, he's got to go out there and work too. And like you said, he's got to be patient. And like I said earlier with Shedeur, I think Shedeur, when he came into the league, from where the program he came from with Pat Shurmur as his OC, like, yeah, he probably was behind in some ways. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. And some people may not like that, but that's just my opinion. So that's that. But I'm just telling you, I think he was behind in a lot of areas in his development. And I think ultimately that's why, when he got here last year, he had to learn a lot. I think he still is learning a lot. And now he's going to learn a whole new system again. So he's going to have to be patient, but I think you see a lot of guys, though, in the NFL nowadays, that's not a bad thing. I think sometimes it's better to sit and wait. And then life, that's the key too. Like, you look at some of these quarterbacks, though, that have waited, like Malik Willis I talked about. Now, Malik's still got to go perform this year, improve it. But you look at a guy like him, look, Mac Jones is doing right now. You look at what Sam Darnold did, the guy, the Super Bowl champion. He had to go sit for a little bit. He came in as the high, number 3 overall pick. He was supposed to be the dude. And then he bounced from place to place. And then he bounced to another place. And then he finally found stability in Minnesota. I'm thinking like his 4th stop, I think it was. And kind of resurrected his career. And then he got got paid with Seattle. And now he's a Super Bowl champion after year 1. Like, sometimes the path for everybody's different. I think, and maybe Sam Darnold had to learn some more things along the way to, along his development and stuff that he just didn't have when he came in the league. He wasn't prepared. And he also was in a shitty situation too. Don't get, like, the Jets are not a great organization like the Browns. So in terms of quarterback development, especially, they're not that great. So he had to find stability. Maybe Todd Monken's that stability for him. We're going to find out and see. But all this is very fascinating. But right now, if you have to ask me, it looks like I think they end up naming Deshaun to start it here pretty soon, based on what they're saying and just where they're heading. I think they probably will do it very soon. Again, I'm not saying Deshaun shouldn't win the job. If Deshaun wins a job, Deshaun wins a job. And I trust I trust Todd Monken's call on that, if he's making the call like they're saying. But I think you should still wait till middle of camp, maybe right around there, maybe the first 2 weeks. I think you still got to let Deshaun go out and actually compete in live reps in camp with pads on. At least that's what I would want to do. Because again, I want him to really solidify that. I think it'd be good for him too to go out and do that. Be like, okay, hey, I just won this. Like, it builds confidence back. That's what I want. And if Shedeur won, vice versa. Let Shedeur go out there and actually I don't know why they have to earn it in mini camp, learn it in real training camp. But the only thing I could say is maybe they believe they can go win the North next year. And they want to name that guy now, like kind of what Mary Kay said today, then go out and, give him all the first team reps in camp. So when you go into camp, it's already done. And we can just focus on trying to build the best team possible to go out and win the North next year, make a playoff run. Maybe that's what they believe. I don't know. Would it surprise me? No, I think Todd Monken's trying to come here and establish a culture that they haven't had. So, how do you establish a culture? You start winning. No more losing and tanking and waiting and blah, blah, blah. Get out there, just get it done. They've had 2 really good drafts back-to-back years. You still got Myles Garrett, the best player in the world. Like, the North's wide open. Go out and get it done. Like, it's right there for the taking. Go get it. So, but I don't know. Fascinating stuff. We'll be reacting to it. We'll also react to the Cavs game tonight as well, whatever happens there. Obviously, they're about to tip off here. So, please like, subscribe, share all that good stuff. And shout out to all you guys on the playback. And shout out to all the new subscribers as well. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here.
God.